These are 3 episodes that show the freakiest moments in Futurama. Starting off number 3, where Zap, Fry, and Kif are sentenced to death by Snoo Snoo, an Amazon Women in the Mood. The episode starts with Amy getting a phone call from a stranger who sounds, rather creepy.
Hello?
Layla walks in on her to see what's wrong, and Amy explains how they've been calling and hanging up on her 10 times a day for a year. Amy's not the smartest by any means, but she does know she can block the number, right? As their conversation continues, we cut to Kif on the other end of the call, struggling to tell Amy his true feelings for her.
I love you. Oh.
His room is covered in photos of them together, which is kind of depressing. Kif begins to cry on his bed when Zap enters his room, where he tells him how he met Amy after escaping a black hole together. Ah, the classic escape death romance. Zap notices the photos on the wall and sees Layla in the background, giving him the perfect idea of a double date. Somehow Layla agrees on the double date since Amy wants to see Kif again, so they meet up for dinner where Kif asks Zap for some dating tips. He must be really desperate for help considering he's asking Zap for advice. They are all sitting at the dinner table when Kif decides to hit Amy with some pickup lines, and it obviously doesn't go well since Amy and Layla are planning to secretly leave. That is until Kif starts singing, melting Amy's heart with his sweet vocals. Can someone tell me how he was able to sing in front of a whole crowd of people for her, but not talk to her face to face? Before he gets to the chorus, Zap kicks him off stage and starts singing about Layla, causing the whole restaurant to evacuate. I'm not even surprised. At this point, Amy and Layla want to leave, but Zap takes control of the restaurant and crashes them on a planet. We cut to Fry at home and oh my god, what even is that? Zoidberg? Anyway, the story continues as Fry calls the restaurant, which tells him it crashed onto a planet, sending Fry and Bender on a rescue mission. We watch as the couples are stranded in the forest until they get spooked by loud footsteps caused by giants. And of course, Zap tries to use his pickup lines on them, which ultimately fails, as they are all captured and dragged away. Fry and Bender somehow land safely on the planet where they find their friends shackled up like prisoners. Before we know it, they get captured themselves. I am not surprised by this in the slightest. The Giants release Layla and Amy, leaving the others detained, saying how they'll bring them to their woman leader. On the way to the capital city of planet Amazonia, the Giants explain how the men died out many years ago. As they arrive at their destination, we see who the Giants worship, who they like to call Femputer. After discussing why there's men on her planet, Femputer turns around to decide what to do as punishment. Before we know it, they get tied up against a wall, and of course, Zap is enjoying every second of it.
Too hard!
Okay Zap, we get it, you're freaky. The Giant asks Amy what they are for, and this is when we hear the phrase Snoo Snoo, and I think we all know what this means, unfortunately. The Femputer turns around and concludes they are sentenced to death by Snoo Snoo, and they're all excited except for Kif, the poor guy. Bender finds a way to negotiate his way out of punishment by stating how he doesn't have a, well, you know. But for the others, they are told to move to the Snoo Snoo chambers. As they are about to commence the punishment, Kif admits he was the one calling Amy all this time, and says the magical words to her while tied up.
'Cause I love you.
Oh, Kif.
While the guys are getting punished, Amy tells Bender to find a way to hack the Femputer to save them. He sneaks around town and starts beating up the Femputer until the door opens to reveal who's behind the scenes. The Fembot explains to Bender the reason why she's controlling the Giants, because she was once controlled by a Manputer herself, and proceeds to capture him. Noticing Fry and Zap are exhausted, Layla and Amy attempt to enter the chamber and rescue Kif as they run away to the Femputer. Bender and the Fembot are heard doing some robot things when Bender tells the Giants to release his friends, and they arrive home safe and sound. Sort of. Fry wouldn't necessarily say he's safe in Put Your Head on My Shoulders. The group sees an advertisement on television and decides to go car shopping with Amy's money. After all, she is a millionaire. They arrive at the dealership where Amy is upsold on a car that is way too overpriced, but Amy doesn't really care. So this is what financial freedom looks like. After driving home in her new car, Amy approaches Fry and asks if he'd want to join her on a little road trip to Mercury, where they soon arrive at. Burning through the gas, Amy and Fry get stranded. Luckily, Amy has an emergency phone, but it will take a whole hour for someone to come pick them up. During the wait, they hit it off and start flirting with one another. The mechanic arrives and picks them up, but all of a sudden Amy and Fry start doing the dirty on the way home. Joining their friends around the table, they tell them what happened back on Mercury, and Bender gets jealous that Fry gets to enjoy Amy's wealth. It really doesn't surprise me that's all Bender sees in her. Bender gets the great idea to start his own dating service since Valentine's Day is coming up, where he'll hook people up on dates. For money, of course. We cut to Amy and Fry hiding in the supply room making out again, where Amy tells Fry she enjoys hanging out with him and wants to go on a picnic date, and Fry is shocked, but not in a good way, as he ends up sharing his feelings to Layla about how he really feels about Amy. Before he finishes his conversation, Amy's ready for the picnic, but Fry tells Zoidberg to come along with them. This is not going to go well. Zoidberg flies the car to their destination as Fry and Amy have a deep talk in the back. Suddenly, Zoidberg crashes the car into an iceberg and Fry wakes up with his head detached from his body and connected to Amy's in order to save him, thanks to Zoidberg's surgical operation. Karma really got Fry this time. Arriving back at Planet Express, Fry breaks up with Amy, expecting her to react, but instead quickly gets over it and asks Fry if she could go on a date with someone else. Later, we watch as Fry asks Layla to be his Valentine on the date so he isn't alone, but gets rejected since she already paid for Bender's dating service. So Fry decides to get hooked up with someone as well. Bender's making so much money off of his friends, it's actually impressive. Amy and Fry get dressed before heading to the date, where Fry is waiting for his date to show up. All is going rather well at the restaurant until Fry's date leaves him out of having higher expectations, following her with Layla's date. The only one staying is Amy's date, who asks her if she'd like to come back to his place. Fry gets nervous because of what's in store for him, being that he's still attached to her body. Why would Amy do this to Fry knowing he's right next to her? Thankfully, Layla notices Fry trying to yank his head off and decides to help him out by distracting the date, leading to the end of the night. Fry and Amy get to go home with Layla, where his head gets stitched back onto his body. And finally, for the #1 position, the freakiest episode ever in The Prisoner of Benda. Layla starts the episode by saying how ugly her eyeball is and argues that Fry only likes her for her looks. The television displays a royal emperor who goes by the name of Nikolai, who flexes his crown to the cameras. Bender notices him and begins planning a heist mission to steal his crown. They all disagree with him, but he continues to share his plan. Moving to Professor Farnsworth's laboratory, Amy is helping him restore his broken mind switcher, given the fact that he wants to swap with someone in a younger body to feel alive again. Fair enough. Amy talks about how she'd love to eat food like she used to, so Farnsworth convinces her to switch with him to fulfill her wants through his body. I didn't think I'd ever say that sentence, but here we are. They both indulge in their desires until Farnsworth realizes her body isn't strong enough after he crashes in a snowboarding accident. After explaining this to Amy, they try and switch back, but it doesn't work. Realizing he needs a different body for the heist, Bender swaps bodies with Farnsworth and heads out to steal the crown, trying to seduce the guards, sort of. At the same time, Amy is having a feast while Layla walks in on her. She's disappointed that she can't digest food, so she convinces Layla to swap with her. Bender, on the other hand, gets caught by the Emperor and somehow proves he's also a robot, but in a human body. Back at the lab, Farnsworth gives up on solving the problem and runs away to join a circus full of robots. He applies for the position with some impressive skills, I might add, and lands the job. Moving along to Bender, we watch the Emperor explain how he wants to escape his flashy lifestyle. Bender then brings up swapping bodies with him, with his eyes on the crown of course. Fry's back at Planet Express where he gossips with Hermes about his situation with Layla, where Hermes tells him he should give her a taste of her own medicine, aka implying he should switch bodies with someone that's considered ugly.
Friends, I've got barnacles on my tuchus.
The long search is over.
Sorry, Zoidberg. Bender comes back and asks where his body is, and Layla tells him he ran away. He needs to swap bodies with a robot for the Emperor, so he grabs the wash bucket. After that, we watch as Fry swaps with Zoidberg and Bender swaps with the Emperor. Fry returns to Layla in hopes of teaching her a lesson, until Amy walks in on them munching on a stick of butter. They fight about how shallow they feel towards each other, so Fry decides to challenge her to a romantic dinner to see if she'd go out in public with him. Hermes finds Amy finishing the butter stick and asks her to swap with him in hopes of saving Layla's body. Back to the story, Farnsworth asks to be shot out of a cannon but gets denied, and Bender is attacked by the Emperor's wife and her real partner, who she's having an affair with. He tries to explain he's Bender, but that doesn't matter since they want to destroy the Emperor's body, so they chase him off the yacht. Following along, Fry and Layla are eating dinner trying to catch one another slipping up in the relationship to see who will be in the wrong. But things take a wild turn as they start making out right on top of the table in front of everyone. Can we take a moment to remember they're still in different bodies? Anyway, while Bender is seen on television getting attacked, Farnsworth and his circus friends notice him and want to help because the Emperor is the same race as them. The canon explains she can shoot Farnsworth to save the robots, but she will die in the process. She makes the tough call to sacrifice her life to save the Emperor. What a hero. Farnsworth crashes through the ceiling and starts defending Bender. All the while, we see Fry and Layla in bed together. This is definitely the freakiest episode of Futurama. Fry and Layla watch the TV as the fight between the robots play out. Right before Farnsworth is about to lose, he unleashes the circus robots out of his chest, winning him the battle. Everyone regroups back at Planet Express to figure out how they will get their lives back. After the help of other scientists, they realize they only need 2 different people to get back to their original bodies. If only they solved this earlier, we wouldn't have been exposed to such atrocities. The episode ends with Bender thinking he stole the crown, only to realize it's in the Emperor's compartment, and not his.